Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, two German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American football experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
You're damn right, we're the Schnitzel Boys!
That's right. That's right.
You better recognize.
You better recognize the Schnitzel Boys.
Schnitzel time. The oven, right out of the oven.
Right out of the oven, that schnitzel. That's not how you make schnitzel.
I was about to say, I'm probably doing it wrong.
There's no oven involved.
How do you make
You
it?
don't need an oven.
Real?
I mean,
on the pan, right?
It's in a pan. If you get it in a German fast food establishment, a self-respecting German fast food establishment, it's going to be deep fried.
Right. You know, here in LA, there's something called the Schnitzel House, I think, or it's like a small little chain. Maybe it's a West Coast chain. I should go and take a look. See how they do. I guarantee you, those.
See how they do the schnitzels.
Them schnitzels.
I have to make a disclaimer. I've had some drinks.
Oh no way! Oh really? Today?
It's my daughter's birthday. We took her out to dinner to this local Italian restaurant in Queens. I had an Aperol Spritz.
Nice.
And then they brought me another one, which was sort of a misunderstanding. I didn't think. But anyway, I don't drink that much, so it doesn't take much. I'm a little inebriated. Here we are. So this is going to hit a little different. Maybe we'll see.
Well, this might be there might be a new rule. We might have to before we do schnitzel. We might be called the Schnapps Boys.
The spritz before the schnitzel.
Spritz before the shits. Yeah, keep it loose and fun. I like it. Well, happy birthday to your daughter. It's nice
Thank you. She's 14. I need to be drinking.
Well, yeah, she's entering the. I don't know what that's like. A dad with a young lady now. But you. How was it was an Italian place, you said?
It's an Italian place in Queens, sort of an old school Italian. We walked across the Pulaski Bridge. I've been meaning to try this place out. It looked like one of those, old school New York Italian places. It was very good, I thought.
Oh, you walked there?
Walked there, yeah. I can walk to Queens from my house. So we walked across the bridge, had some dinner, walked back, opened presents, ate some cake, and now it's schnitzel time.
Schnitzel time. Well, that's fun. Thanks for being on the pod.
Oh, of course.
Running around. That's very cool. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
To little young Schnitz. And
Ella Schnitzel.
Ella Schnitzel. Mm-hmm. Very cool.
She said, she told us a while back that she could not marry Darth Vader because then her name would be Elevator.
Oh, hey-oh. I like that.
Oh!
I like that. Chop off the old block. That's not the expression. What is it? What's the expression?
Chop off the old block.
Chip off the old...
Chip off the old block. That's it.
Chip off the old block, right.
That's it.
I was about to say chip off the shoulder. I don't know expressions. If you grow up first generation like me, you start to mix expressions around.
Oh, I do that. I do that too. I get made fun of by my brothers when I talk. Or I'll say things and my brother will be like, oh yeah, I haven't heard that since 1994.
You know what's funny? As a first-generation American, all of my German comes from my two parents. Right? And my two parents left Germany in 1982.
Yeah.
So if you reverse it, imagine if you're like an American and you grew up in Germany, but your parents left the United States in 1982, and the only English they're exposed to is them. They'd be saying stuff like, "Oh man, that's so boss," or something. I don't know, like stuff in the late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
Because we're talking about Schnitzer. It's not Schnitzer.
Oh, Knipser. Yeah.
I hear it all the time now. Every sports show. I was just listening to a sports show podcast. They're like, yeah, der hat echt geknipst. Like, I hear that word
Right.
all the time. And then Derek Ray used it in a broadcast. And then my mom asked me, she's like, what the heck is a knipser? Because we Googled it, and there's 4 definitions for a knipser. She knew the other 3.
Right.
But the one related to soccer is new. It's like 20 years old.
It's a more recent. Yeah, right.
And it's from after her time. She does
Yeah.
That's a slang she doesn't
Right.
know.
Nobody said that when I was a kid, nobody said that. But then at some point, it just sort of caught on. That became a thing. A knipsa.
Knipser.
Yeah.
Like my dad all the time.
Speaking of, okay, but.
No,
yeah.
well, yeah, we can go right into it. I'm going to talk about like, I have all these expressions from my dad, and I wonder if anybody even uses them anymore. My dad loves yelling, Himmel, Arsch und Schwein. That's just his biggest thing, which means heaven, ass, and swine. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody in Germany even says
Well,
that.
Himmel, Arsch und, that's a thing. But then the third thing is sort of.
A variable?
Is variable, yeah. Himmel, Arsch und Wolkenbruch, I think, I know.
Really? My
Yeah.
dad always said shrine. I've never heard anything other than shrine.
I have never heard it with Schwein, but I've heard other variations of Himmel, Arsch und Zwirn, Himmel, Arsch und Wolkenbruch, Himmel, Arsch und...
Well, is it heaven? Is it heaven ash then? Is it asche?
No,
Or
it's
is it heaven
Arsch,
ass?
it's ass. Yeah. It's.
What does
it's
that mean?
ass,
What is a
it's
heaven?
butt.
What is a heaven ass?
Heaven? I don't know. I think it's just like... I mean,
never known.
I struggling to compare it to something. Like, it's just an assortment of things. It's like... It's sort of like you throw up your hands and you're like, well, what else? Is this Himmel, Arsch und Wolken? You know, what else is going to happen? Or like...
As it's hard to expect something?
It's just sort of like I've seen it all kind of thing. Like, or what's next? You know, that kind of thing.
Nice. There's so many. I go, but this is not the German now. We're doing a little bit of that. But you wanted to talk about Knipser? I didn't mean to interrupt. What are we talking about?
Well, I mean, we got to
what are
talk
we
about,
talking
you know, since we're going to talk about the Knipsa situation, right?
That's right, the curse.
I got all excited last week about Timo Werner and his newly refound striker capacities, and I thought that this would mean good things for the World Cup, and then he went down. The Schnitzel Boys curse is real again.
you follow us-
Timo went down. Timo went down with an injury. Yeah, if you right, we're on.
Follow
where
us
was
on
that?
TikTok. We're on TikTok, and it's also a YouTube short. I'm making TikTok content and bringing the Schnitzel Boys into the 21st century.
That's
Yeah,
excellent.
TikTok on it, and yeah, it's just worked so perfectly. You're like, the more and more Timo Werner scores, I get really excited about the World Cup, and then immediately he gets injured over the weekend, and he's ruled out with injury.
He's
from the
not
World
going.
Cup.
He's
How
not
big of a-
going.
How big of a blow is that?
Well, depends on who you ask, because now, you know, we were sort of speculating about these other options, and now it looks like they're both going to go, right? Füllkrug and Mukoko
Right.
are the two. They both scored over the weekend. Mukoko had his way with poor VfL Bochum
Right?
in a big way. And I think they might both go at this point. With Timo out, you can't. I mean, right? I don't know what the numbers are. We're going to find out on Wednesday, I believe. Wednesday or Thursday?
Thur-
No, I think it's Wednesday the U.S. and Thursday
Yep.
Germany, right? We're gonna know. And by the way, I did look up today. You know how I said in previous weeks that I didn't think anyone had ever made his national team debut during a World Cup, and that is not true. I looked it up today. There's 2 people that
Can I
made
guess what the tournaments are?
please.
You know who? I'm gonna say.
This is going to be, if you get these.
I'm gonna say it's like 1962 and like 1958 or something like that.
Okay. Neither of those, but pretty, but not bad.
Right.
Not a bad guess. I guess if we go chronologically, they're both. Well, one of them is more interesting than the other. The first one is a goalie, Heinz Kwiatkowski.
Okay.
He is a goalkeeper, and he had a total of four caps only for the national team, and his debut was in the World Cup of 1954. He was part of the cup winning, and he got the start at this legendary. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
The Hungary game.
The Hungary game in
Right,
in the group stage, because Germany basically tanked that group stage game against heavily favored Hungary, and they just played the second team squad and lost 8-3.
Do you know why, Bjorn? Because Germans are smart.
Germans are smart,
Not
and
to
then they
geek.
met. I mean, Hungary at the time was like
The Mighty Magwars. They were the best team in the world.
they were supposed to dominate, and so they just kind of let them have that game, and then met them again in the final, and of course famously beat them 3-2. Perhaps partly because Hungary felt very sure of themselves because of that group stage 8-3 victory. Anyway, so that was the second team that played, and that featured Heinz Kwiatkowski in goal. And
But that's also a time that the reason I said old cups, because that made sense. That's before the Bundesliga. German soccer was not professional. German soccer was regional, I believe. I think it was regional leagues. At the end of the year, they had maybe a national cup for a month or something.
Yeah. It was more like it was more of a cup competition. Yeah. There was
so to have a keeper who doesn't play, be part of the team. To me, that you have a starting keeper, and there also weren't that many subs back then either. Like I don't.
Yeah,
think
they did not. You were not allowed to sub during a game. This was another thing that I learned during my research today, which I didn't realize. Not until 1958 were you allowed to sub people in a final, in a World Cup final.
And
so,
I believe cards were introduced in the '74 World Cup, right? Or am I wrong?
Oh, I don't even know.
If I'm not mistaken, the '74 World Cup in Deutschland, the final was in München.
What's the
I
first
think
time?
that's the tournament they debuted the yellow and the red card, maybe.
Interesting.
I should probably Google that. In fact, I'm going to Google that right now.
Anyway, the only other person who this is somewhat less interesting is a man named Harald Konopka, which I also remember because he was part of the FC Cologne team that won the championship in 1978, and I was a fan. I was a fan of that team as a kid, so I remember Harald Konopka. Harald Konopka was a midfielder, and he had his debut in a scoreless draw against Italy. He came off the bench for his injured teammate Herbert Zimmermann, who was like the starting midfielder for that team. And he came off the bench in the 53rd minute, and that was his national team debut at the 1978 World Cup. And those are the only two players that have ever made their debut for Germany in a World Cup. But it looks like that's gonna change. Another little side note is that Lothar Matthäus, the most capped of all players, of all German players, he made his debut not in a World Cup but in a European Cup. So that's also unusual. There's a couple other examples of that, but that's also a rare thing. And Lothar Matthäus, at the tender age of 19, made his debut at the 1980 World Cup that Germany went on to win against Belgium in the final. So that was also interesting, but not a World Cup, obviously. So only twice has this happened. Now we're going to have two candidates to perhaps make their debuts at this World Cup as potential new Knipser for the German national team.
Right.
Now with Timo out.
On the Sports Show website, I think it was the podcast or the Dortmund highlights, they named it Wake Up Before You Makoko. That's what it was called.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I watched that game. I of course watched the Dortmund-Bochum game this weekend, which kind of predictably, somebody texted me, you got any hope for this game? I was like, nope. Bochum won. We basically secured not getting relegated during this game on the road in Bochum last season, won that game. I was like, the chances of that happening 2 years in a row are basically zero. I mean, and sure enough, It was a pretty. It was 4-0, not a close game. But this
Was
kid
it 3-0? Was it
3-0. I'm sorry, that's true. You're right.
From Makoko and a penalty kick from a young American player.
Gio Reyna, yeah, that's right. Everybody, but Mukoko's both of those goals were pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The first one, just, like just pure power, really. A shot that was straight over the head of Manuel Riemann, who's not a bad keeper, and then his second one was a chip from very far out. In that case, Riemann probably a little complicit, a little far off his line. But yeah, he is the future, right? People are saying this is.
I don't know because although he says he's 17, I think he's 35. Would be my guess.
Is this you're making some kind of assumption because he's.
Because does he look 17 to you? Dude's a brick house.
I mean, he's pretty. I don't know about 35, but yeah, he's definitely developed beyond his years. Yeah, he's very, very impressive.
But he's very much next man up. There's been a lot of talk this week about the Bundesliga just being a farm league to the bigger leagues. I've been reading about that, which is, of course, truthful, as we've talked about before. German clubs love to sell their players. As like you said, that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's how they meet their bottom line. But I mean, nobody does it better though. Like it's always next man up. We sold Robert Lewandowski and Erling Haaland, and right away we got ourselves a Christopher Nkunku and now Makoko. They're just ready to go. The next forwards are ready to go. They're just next man up. Let's go.
Choupo-Moting all of a sudden is hitting.
He's finding the back of the net.
Finding the back of the net. Yeah, that's true. It creates, somebody leaves and it creates opportunity. I mean, Mukoko has been, despite his young age, has been highly touted as a prospect for a little while. So, but it did seem that this World Cup would come too early for him. But now I think it's hard to imagine him not being on the squad. He's a young guy. He is the future. People talk about him as the next Klose, and so might as well, right? The alternative is Füllkrug, and he's 29. He's perhaps the present. He's not the future.
Right.
He also has he has a little bit of a knock too, right? Like this is sort of the other tragic thing right now, right? Like whenever you watch a game, anybody who goes down, who's a candidate for the World Cup, you have to worry, right? Maxime, well, we'll talk about that later. But any kind of injury,
Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, Alphonso Davies. Füllkrug is going to miss the next game against Bayern. Julian
Nagelsmann. Yeah,
Julian Nagelsmann is leaving Thomas Müller off right now, and part of it is, it's like it's a big deal. I think it sounds like Nagelsmann, because he has some options and he has a little bit of wiggle room, he's being cautious. It seems like Müller will make the squad, and this is more cautionary. He said, I read something today where he was like, well, it's just too big a risk. I'm not going to play him, and then he's going to hurt himself, he's going to miss the World Cup. He's not going to
they're being
risk.
Good sports.
Yeah,
you hear that. Most coaches traditionally don't give a crap.
I was just gonna say that we have other examples where Graham Potter in Chelsea,
everybody, for
example, is like, I don't, this is not my concern. I'm worried about my team, and everything else is people have to figure it out. So yeah, not everybody has that luxury to be like, oh, we'll leave you. We'll give you time to rest and recover and be ready. But we're gonna see this, I think, before, during, and after, right? This World Cup. There's gonna be people who at the last second don't make it. There's gonna be people there who are not fully fit.
Right.
Once after that, especially in the Prem, because 26th of December the Prem starts again. You're gonna see people go down there. So it is just going to be a shit show to some extent.
Well, this is a lot of fatigue. They've been playing a lot of games just in general. They've been playing almost nonstop since COVID stopped. And COVID was a break, but it wasn't a proper break because it wasn't a mental break. They were still training. It wasn't they didn't really know what was going on. They didn't know when they were going to play next. That's not a proper recovery break. And imagine if they didn't have that rest. I mean, oh boy. And now they're just playing and playing and playing. And then they have a few weeks off in the summer. They play with the national teams. So you can see this fatigue. I'm worried that I remember the 2002 World Cup was a little weird. The reason it was weird because it didn't start. It started like a week or two earlier than usual to avoid the Asian rainy season. And that's why you saw a lot of weird results. That's why you saw Senegal going to the quarterfinals and then never getting out of the group ever again. You know, the U.S. got to the to the quarters. Senegal got to the quarterfinals, the semifinals. And like, you know, and that U.S. and Portugal game.
Korea and Turkey were the other semifinalists. And
Germany did not have the quality to make it to the final.
It was
summer,
not.
But they did it anyway because they were able to pull it off through strategy because Germans are smart.
Everybody else just sort of dropped out. Yeah, it was just kind of. That was a wild one.
So I'm worried that this upcoming tournament will have some of the same effects because it's a little bit off. It's like a weird part of the year for a lot of these players. And they're fresh off. Like the reason that 2002 was weird is all the Europeans were exhausted. The one saving grace is this is in the middle of the season, so they don't have full seasons under their belt. They did have technically a summer off, but last summer was the Euros, right? Or am I wrong? No, summer, 2 summers ago was the Euros. Last summer they had the Nations League games. They still had games, you know what I mean? But it wasn't. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
we'll see how energetic they are this tour. I hope it's the opposite. I hope it's like they're coming very refreshed and just the right amount of warm because they have a half a season under their belts. I'm hoping they're coming swinging. But what I've seen over the last few months is some sleepy players, right? Most teams are underperforming because they're tired.
I mean, I think people are also. It's in the back of people's minds, you know, like people are worried. The people who are going or have hopes of going and all that. It's definitely a thing. Nobody wants to get hurt, but then some people get hurt anyway. And I mean, it's just individually always very sad when this happens. And then also collectively, teams like France, they're missing a bunch of people. So it's not Pogba, Kante. Yeah.
Kante is a big one, by the way.
It is for them,
big one. But France has amazing depth. Like we need to, they just have talk about next man up. They're ready to go. But like, so now going back to Germany, as far as firepower up top, we got Thomas Muller, right? Leroy Sané, I believe he's played. Did he play over the weekend? He's maybe just getting back from injury. I don't know.
Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, he should make the team, right?
Leroy Sané, Serge Gnabry. That's the kind of firepower.
Yeah, Kai Havertz.
Kai Havertz will be probably the starting. I would say the starting number 9. And then, do you have room for both Füllkrug and Moukoko? Do you think? Or do you think he's probably just going to take one or the other?
I think with Timo out, I'm going to say he's going to take both because neither of them have played for the national team before. So right. I think to pick one over the other, I think it's just. I mean, we've heard also recently we've heard Hansi Flick sort of saying complimentary things about Füllkrug, about how he sort of fits in, and he could be good to have. And that was before Timo went down, so it sounded like he was considering including him anyway. And now, well, it's also 26-man roster, right? It's not like the 23 that it usually is. So. If I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would say he's going to take them both.
I'd be fine with that. And honestly, I have a feeling that Moukoko would be more of a sensation than Füllkrug. Essentially, Füllkrug's deal is he going to be our Toto Scalacci? Toto Scalacci was the hero of the Italian team of the 1990 World Cup, and really he only played that tournament. He didn't have much of a career before. After. Oh, he did. It was relatively obscure. Like he was just a star that summer. We have those, I remember Hadji was such a big star for Morocco. And
Mario Götze. Mario Götze scored the
Right.
winning goal in the final and was never heard of again, basically.
The summer of Götze. He's back, baby. Maybe Götze will be part of this squad. I doubt it, but maybe.
I don't think so.
I think that'd be fun, but
I don't know, maybe. So Sané, just to say that, he came off the bench in the 75th minute, so he's fit-ish. But Goretzka got the start. He's going to go. I mean, he's a midfielder. He's not. Musiala, is also.
he's part of that firepower.
He's also not a striker per se, but I could imagine him scoring a goal or two, perhaps two against Costa Rica.
We don't have world-class number 9s, but we do have world-class wingers. Maybe you just need a whole bunch of wingers. Plenty of teams have that problem. The United States has kind of that issue for the most part. They have quite a few wingers to choose from, but their number 9 pickings are slim. Mm-hmm. Germany is in the same spot. I imagine they'll go with a false 9, Kai Havertz, and they'll have a Musiala and Thomas Muller on the wings. Or Muller will be more of a bench option, probably a Gnabry and Musiala, or a Gnabry and Sané. I mean, you pick it. Sané and Musiala. I mean, there's a lot of options.
Yeah. And on Thursday, we're going to find out who's going.
Julian Brandt maybe will still be in the conversation. Curious about Marco Reus.
I don't think he's going. There was another. He tried to go. He came back. He briefly tried to get in, but his pain is back. I mean, I don't know. He's not officially out, but it's not looking good for him.
He might also be one of those guys who's just on the roster. But Brazil announced their roster today, and the 39-year-old Dani Alves is on it. And I guarantee you, he's just there to hang out and be in the locker room and be a positive voice. I mean,
I guess that's something you could also opt to use your extra spots that way, maybe to get a little experience, get some veteran presence. But
as
Reus,
a taste-maker, yeah.
But Marco Reus honestly doesn't have a lot of positive World Cup. I mean, he
I don't know what that's. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
He's missed a lot of them. The last one he was, that didn't go all that well. I don't know. It's not like he's good luck or anything.
I don't know.
No, I'm not saying that at all. But it's not like. I mean, then I'd rather. I guess if then I'd probably would take Götze. He scored a goal in the final. I don't know. I mean, if I had to pick, we also. Like you were saying, that's not a position of need. There's a lot of good wingers, and Marco Reus at 100% obviously is a positive in almost any team, but he is clearly not 100%, and so yeah, I mean that's just sort of the tragedy. I mean, always this happens. Some version of this happens every time. It's only every 4 years, so these players don't have a ton of opportunities to go to a World Cup, and so it's always sad when injury prevents people. But I just think this time there's going to be more of that than usual. Yeah,
and Marco Reus, I'd be like, I want to do that one again. You know what I mean? Or maybe he doesn't care. I don't know. But anyway, and also, the German national team squad's coming out Thursday. Some positions are very strong, some less so. Like, their holding midfielders are going to be the best this summer. I mean, especially with Kante out. Who can beat the Gundogan Kimmich or the Goretzka Kimmich combo or the Goretzka Gundogan combo? I mean,
that is a good midfield for sure. They
stay healthy, knock on wood. That's going to be a key figure. Same with Manuel Neuer being back to full form again right before the tournament. So, it could be worse. It could be worse. Losing Timo Werner, unfortunate, but it could be worse. If they can
figure out who's going to score the goals, then yeah, that's it. So Füllkrug, another injury watch. Füllkrug is missing the next game because of a back injury. He was saying in the last game against Schalke, that was sort of, he was saying how this was like their Schalke's defensive strategy against him was to just hit him in the back every time. And so he needs a rest, but he had an ultrasound. There's nothing really structurally wrong, so it's kind of just a knock. So we'll see.
Well, good thing their next game isn't that important. It's just against Bayern München.
Well, but on the other hand, it's like playing Hungary in 1954, right? If you're probably not gonna. They're on the road. They're not gonna get a lot out of this, so may as well give them a rest. Maybe that's the other way to look at it, because Werder Bremen is already in the bonus, right? They have.
What do you mean in the bonus? Where are they?
I mean, for a newly promoted team, they have 21 points out of 13 games.
They're doing great.
They're doing great. They do not need to get anything out of this game on the road at Bayern. They beat Schalke 2-1 this weekend. Fellow promoted side. Very different fortunes. Very different fortunes. Werder Bremen is more like Fulham, and Schalke is more like Nottingham Forest. If you want to
without all the spending
analogies, without any of the
spending. Well, let's talk domestic football. So over the weekend, Bayern München reclaimed their throne as top of the table, because the only team to challenge them, Union Berlin, played struggling Bayer Leverkusen, but typical Wild West Bundesliga. Bundesliga's got a little shade of MLS in it sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, try to predict some of these games.
Especially this year.
Bayer Leverkusen destroyed Union Berlin.
Shellacked the Union. And
5-0. And at the end of the game, the Union Berlin fans were singing Always Look at the Bright Side of Life from Monty Python, which is a very positive thing to sing if you're losing 5-0. Always look at the bright side of life. The ending, which was banned from 18 American states, by the way. A little trivia from Monty Python, Life of Brian.
Blasphemous.
Blaspheme was definitely banned in Utah. But that's neither here nor there. I just want to say that Union Berlin, you have fallen off
the fantasy has ended.
Perhaps. We don't know. There's still midweek and there's a weekend, and what was it? You had that stats last week of Union Berlin making the Champions League this year. I think it is realistic. They'll probably fall to third or fourth by the end of the season. But Borussia Dortmund and Freiburg are still there. And, as sloppy lackadaisical as Borussia Dortmund have been, they're getting 3 points. They are getting 3 points.
Well, they were playing Bochum this week, so.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, last minute and stuff, but they're right there. But Borussia Dortmund and Bayern München do get to play each other. They're only 3 points apart. They do have their Klassiker next term, and the Rückrunde.
Yes. Die Rückrunde.
Bitte eine Rückrunde mit Fleisch. Dankeschön.
Danke.
But so that was that weekend. No big surprises other than that, right?
Not really. Yeah.
Game. But Borussia Dortmund won, Freiburg won, Bayern München won. And then they have games tomorrow. They have an Englische Woche and games over the weekend to round this out.
Yeah.
But the bigger talking point, I think, with Deutsches Fußball is Europa.
Oh, the Champions League draw, yes. Pretty good.
First and foremost, so of the 5 German teams, remember last week we had it off with like, so-and-so needs a tie, blah, blah, blah. Everyone essentially did their job. Bayer Leverkusen is the only team not advancing, but they still got Europa League, so they're going to Europa League. And then the other 4 German teams, RB Leipzig, Borussia Dortmund, and Bayern München are going through, as well as Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah.
For that
it was another day where none. Yeah, my family is in the background.
No worries,
the birthday party continues without me.
Like I said, thanks for being here.
Hey, anytime.
However, what I do want to say is, unless do you have a big thought you want to say about Eintracht Frankfurt?
No, I would just say this is the best that the Germans have done in the Champions League in quite some time.
Yeah, Farm League, that's where all the Farm League stuff comes from. It's like, these farmers tend to be winning. So, however, if you know how I say German clubs don't get enough respect? Well, I'll tell you, because everyone and their mothers talk about Napoli. It's like, Bayern München got 18 points, actually, if you're curious. But anyway, If I didn't know any better, I would say there was a conspiracy to eliminate every German club by the round of 16, because all 4 German clubs got some pretty stiff opposition.
Yep.
Including Bayern München. Mm-hmm. They had the most perfect record. So it's like, oh, your award? You get to play Paris Saint-Germain in the round of 16.
Because they actually finished second in their group because of that last minute goal
difference thing. But they still had 15 points. Like, they were still very dominant. Like, it was a little bit of a snafu. Not snafu, but like, so they were by far the highest rated second place team compared to the first place team. So you're looking at a Club Brugge versus Benfica on one side of the table, and a Paris Saint-Germain versus Bayern München on the other side of the table.
Yeah, I mean there's some bangers, yeah, for sure. Paris Saint-Germain against Bayern
München, RB Leipzig were given Manchester City.
Man City, yeah, very difficult. Dortmund's playing Chelsea. Frankfurt's playing Napoli, Milan, AC Milan against Tottenham. Liverpool against Real Madrid, another big one. And Inter Milan against Porto. Yeah.
I will say though, all 4 German matchups, I mean, none of them are favorites, right? I'd say it's maybe 3 underdogs.
Oh, Bayern 50-50. Bayern, everybody's...
They are, but they can't be high favorites. I mean, it's Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. I mean, the Paris Saint-Germain. I still believe Bayern München will get through, as they have A, they're more focused, and B, they have more of a complete roster than Paris Saint-Germain. But Dortmund versus Chelsea will be fun, because I would say Chelsea are probably favorites, but slight favorites. Borussia Dortmund aren't, maybe they could give them especially if they're in great form with all the youngsters. We have a Gio Reyna versus Christian Pulisic there for the American angle. That'll be fun.
Well, I wouldn't bet a lot of money on Pulisic still being with Chelsea at that point.
Oh yeah, good point. Maybe he'll be with Borussia Dortmund at that point.
Well, there was some talk of Serie A, right? That's what I've heard. I don't know where exactly, but there was some talk he may go to Italy. That's the thing. This is a long way off. These games are
in February,
in mid-February, and
we'll see
mid-March, mid-February. There's also now there was like Champions League every week. Next year, they're going to spread this out, so it's going to be mid-February to mid-March. It's going to all take a long time.
The final is in June 10th, which is pretty late, quite late, I'd say, to try to even out their season and then probably get back to normal by next season, hopefully, knock on wood. But Eintracht Frankfurt versus Napoli, that's a mountain to climb right now. But like I said, we'll see in 4 months.
Yeah, February's a long way away. I mean, this could... who knows how that shakes out. I mean, Dortmund would probably prefer to play Chelsea now than in February. I bet they're in a little bit of turmoil. I'm sure that's going to sort itself out somewhat.
You think? I would say the opposite. Borussia Dortmund needs to get their mojo going. I don't know. I guess, I don't know. It's an interesting matchup, those two.
For sure.
And then elsewhere, we got the Europa League. We got Union Berlin playing Ajax. That'll be a stiff competition for them. And then Bayer Leverkusen got AS Monaco, where Alexander Nubel is playing, I believe, the quote-unquote future of the Bayern München goalkeeping. Famously, he was signed on a free from Schalke for some reason and went off to Bayern München thinking he'd play. But, of course, Manuel Neuer there, so didn't play. So the bench for a while. Now he's hanging out in Monaco, where he's been, from what I understand, pretty consistently good, I think. And then there you go. We got Germans doing German clubs, and then that is the playoff game. After that, Freiburg is waiting. They play the winner of one of these matchups. And that is sort of your German rundown in Europe. They're doing well.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a Champions League and Europa League winner this year. We'll see.
What are you talking about? That's crazy talk.
Well, like I said, we'll see. Lass uns sehen. We will see. We will see.
I mean, these are all tough draws. You wouldn't be surprised if all 4 of them go out in the round of 16. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if there is a chance that all 4 German teams will not make it past the round of 16.
Yeah.
Like I said, other than Bayern München, and that's, you put an asterisk on that, because who the heck is a favorite against PSG? It's pretty 50-50. I mean, there's no favorites in a matchup like that.
My neutral friends are all very optimistic for Bayern. They're like, oh, it's so funny, PSG again going out in the round of 16. I'm like, all right. I'm not as convinced, but
it wasn't too long ago that Bayern München were eliminated by Liverpool in the round of 16. If I'm not
I
mistaken,
think
right?
I think that time is on their side also. I mean, I think to some extent they're gonna. But yeah, no, these are great matchups. I mean, it's also cool. Obviously, you would probably some of the German teams would have wished to play maybe a Bruges or a Porto or a Benfica rather than who they got. But it's also kind of cool to see some of these teams that are not there every year make it into the quarterfinals.
Club Bruges?
Club, yeah.
Stomping grounds of Ethan Horvath?
That's where Tavon Buchanan is, right? Of New England Revolution fame, Canadian prodigy.
Is that where he ended up? Oh,
I think so. Yeah. It'll be exciting, but not soon. It's going to be a while. They do the draw. They give us these tasty matchups, and they're like, all right, see you in mid-February.
See you in a few months. All right, well then, let's talk about the here and now. Tomorrow we got Wolfsburg against Borussia Dortmund, Bayern München against Werder Bremen. That'll be a big one. Bochum against Borussia Mönchengladbach. Stuttgart against Hertha BSC. That's tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we've got Köln against Bayer Leverkusen, which is the Kölner derby. That'll be fun. RB Leipzig hosting SC Freiburg. That's a big one. Because, who's going to get that one?
Yeah, true. Berlin Freiburg is the next team where we're on Cinderella watch, right? How long are they going to last? The Union Berlin now seems like they're going to perhaps fade a little bit.
Make their way down to 4th, yeah.
RB Leipzig against Freiburg, that's another opportunity for them to show that they're real.
Yeah, Frankfurt against Hoffenheim, Schalke against Mainz. So, yeah, we got some big games. Like I said,
Thomas Reis has yet to win a game. He has, yeah.
Yeah. We'll
Bochum has played on the road. Bochum is playing at home, so that makes it not a foregone conclusion that they're going to lose, even though they still might. But on the road this year, 7 games, 7 losses, mostly pretty decisive. That's no way to stay in the league.
We'll see if Joe Scally's got something to say tomorrow. Joe Scally and the Fohlen. Right? Does that mean the birds or whatever? What's Fohlen again?
The fowls, young horses. What are they called?
Oh, those are horses?
Yeah.
Ponies?
Well, ponies are their own thing, right? Fohlen are like baby horses. They grow up to be actual horses. Ponies always say ponies, right? Listen.
Yeah. I'm translating it to
not an equestrian over here.
No, you're right. Fohlen is a young horse.
Okay.
Translate to English is, I guess, FOAL, fowl. But no one.
Fowl, yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, you're right, but we don't. Do we use that word in English?
A foal? Is it? I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it a foal? A fowl?
Probably foal, because fowl is
like the turkeys and chickens and stuff.
Chicken roosters. Right. That's why I assumed. Who knows? See, you learn something every day. The young horses versus what's the Bochum nickname? Do they have nicknames?
No.
Some do, some don't. Schalke's the Royal Blues, right?
Die Unabsteigbaren. We used to be called die Unabsteigbaren, but that's clearly no longer the case.
The unrelegated.
The unrelegateables. The unrelegateables.
I would love that. What a disastrous nickname. I mean, you're just begging. You're just begging to be relegated with a nickname.
That's like that. the jinx of all jinxes. Yeah.
Jinx of all jinxes. All right. Well, we got Donnerstag. We got the roster, and then next week is Donnerstag, the German roster. We got Bundesliga midweek. We got Bundesliga over the weekend. Then it's time for Qatar, baby. Qatar. Next week's episode we have a big special guest on the pod joining us as we're going to break down German stuff with a German expert. Hopefully, unless things fall through, I won't release his name for the anticipation. But all I'll say is he was my favorite German soccer writer for a long time. He's written a lot of really cool books on German soccer, as well as he has a new one coming out about Franz Beckenbauer this year, Der Kaiser, which he'll talk about with us maybe for a little bit. So I'm very excited. We've got a big old special guest next week. Be sure to tune in and check that out for our World Cup preview podcast. And then after that, it's the World Cup. VM.
That's right.
So fast. VM. How are you feeling about the World Cup now without Timo Werner and everything?
I mean, I still feel good, I guess. It's weird. It's weird that it's, and I'm sure I think our guests will have a lot to say about this too.
Right.
You know, it's not the same. I'm not as pumped as I used to be. We keep reading about, I mean, this whole Qatar thing was such a clusterfuck to begin with, you know, the way this came about, and it's such corruption, and everything we hear about it is just, and it's
what I will say though, there's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about that I didn't talk about today. There's a big sports show series about it called Qatar Schande. It's a great, it's on YouTube. If you speak German, it's a great multi-part series. There was that, and also the journalists are coming out swinging now. They've had this information for years, but they're waiting for 2 weeks before the World Cup to release their exposés and their papapas because the timing's right. ESPN has a whole hour-long special on it, on the migrant workers. Grant Wall did his stuff.
Grant
the French
Wall
network,
something, yeah.
The French network released a really great special because France has a very special relationship with Qatar. So TV5 released a really great sort of a special about it. And you know, it's not great. It's typical sports washing. And now you're hearing these bonkers reports that they're paying fans to spy,
I mean,
and spread positive messages on their social media.
And people, I mean, you hear all kinds of things, and I'm sure not. I don't track everything down factually 100%, so I'm not sure, you know. But you hear things about, you have to register your phone, you can't use certain apps, and it's all just sort of.
The British the British minister said, okay, LGBTQ fans, be respectful. You know, don't be gay when you're over, you know.
Don't be so
you're
gay.
Not allowed to say that stuff.
Don't be so gay. Don't be so gay in Qatar. Yeah.
Right.
So between it being in such a weird time, and all of these things that you hear, and I mean, you know, I understand, and listen, I'm myself. You know, we use this as an escape, right? Like the sports are our ticket out. You know, we care about sports in order to get away from maybe other things. So, but then of course you also can't be completely ignorant and naive when things are this blatantly. You know, there's such blatant disregard for, you know, our value systems in terms of what freedom means and what you're allowed to do and what the press's role is and how you treat people and all that stuff. So to answer your question, I'm trying to get excited, I guess, but it's not the same. It's not the same as it usually is.
Well, we'll talk about all that next week with our special guest because he has probably even more reservations than we do with Boycott Talk. So all sorts of interesting topics to talk about, all things Deutschland and Qatar next week. All right, everybody. Any last thoughts, Bjorn?
That's it for Deutschland, yeah?
Tschüss, Deutschland. Bundesliga tomorrow, Wednesday. Bundesliga
so
Friday,
much
Saturday,
Bundesliga.
Sunday.
And no more MLS. We have plenty of time.
No more. We have all the time in the world. All right, tschüss. Tell your friends and family, like and subscribe. And tune in next week with a special guest. Tschüss. Bis nächste Woche.